Ethan and I had been in love for 10 years. Everyone knew he adored me as if I were his life. I was his only red rose. Until that day, when I stood outside the cake shop. Through the glass polished to a bright transparency, I saw him with his arm around another girl, both squeezing pastry bags, her smile radiant. That day was supposed to be our 10th anniversary. If nothing went wrong, soon we would step into the sanctuary of marriage hand in hand. Ethan believed I couldn't live without him. But he was wrong. From the very start, I never intended to be his rose alone. The glass felt as if it were carved from ice, a chill stabbing straight at my heart. I could feel my breath falter for a few seconds, my head burned. I was nailed to the spot, unable to move. My heart was like a lemon thrown onto the street and stomped to pulp, so sour it made me reel, a bitterness beyond words. The girl in a pale yellow dress leaned into Ethan's arms. They were intimate and inseparable, as if lovers. Maybe I should storm in, smear cream across their faces, and then hysterically demand of Ethan why he, who was supposed to be in the conference room, was standing here, holding this beautiful girl. Maybe I should have calmed down, spoken calmly with Ethan, let him give me an explanation, or a confession. But I did nothing. I just stood there quietly for a few minutes, or for 10 or 15 minutes. I watched Ethan steady the girl's arm so it wouldn't tremble as she squeezed the cream. I watched the girl spin around playfully, swiftly smear the cream onto Ethan's cheek, then flash a sweet smile. For the first time I resented the excellent eyesight I had once prided myself on, and foolishly let my attention wander, wondering why the shop would design a glass wall that laid its customers' privacy bare. I picked up the bag that had fallen at my feet and turned to leave. I guessed my silhouette must have looked pathetic, stumbling steps, all flustered. Only after I sat back in the car did it hit me that the back of my shirt had been soaked through with sweat. I'll go home and take a shower, I thought. Ethan and I were the kind of campus couple everyone envied. Ethan was a year older than me. He'd taken a year off in 10th grade after injuring himself playing basketball and then transferred into my class. By fate's design, he became my desk mate. Spending morning and night together, the slightest accidental touch was all it took for ambiguous feelings to sprout. Our eyes met and tangled, enough to flush two inexperienced faces red. But we both held our breath, neither of us stepping over that boundary. We gritted our teeth, not daring to reveal a trace of affection. Even though everyone around us had become practiced at teasing the two of us, he and I would never admit we were together. That stubbornness lasted until before the college entrance exam. When the bell for the last class rang, classmates with reddened eyes said their goodbyes to one another and gave one final hug to our strict yet kind homeroom teacher. Ethan tapped my shoulder. "Hey, Serena, I've got something for you." He handed me a handwritten collection of math problems. He was brilliant at math, the kind of student teachers couldn't stop praising, and he never bothered to keep track of his mistakes. "I guessed it, I thought you'd be taking the test." He turned his head awkwardly. "Do you trust me?" I smiled, took the notebook, and put it in my bag. Then, gently, as if afraid of burning him, I tapped his arm. "Ethan, see you on the 9th. Ethan's earlobes were red, his voice muffled. "See you on the 8th, let's practice English together." "See you on the 8th, Ethan." "What day is the 8th, do you remember, Ethan?" I answered the phone, my hair still dripping. "I know, Serena, but something came up at the company, you know, that project is very important right now." Ethan's voice was gentle with a hint of pleading. "I'll make it up to you when I get back, okay?" If not for that scene in the cake shop, I might actually have believed what he said. He loved his work. In the years we were together, there were times when he neglected me because of it. But I chose to understand him. The company was founded by Ethan and me. We had just graduated from college. To win clients we once pulled all-nighters together, and we drank until one of us bled from the stomach. No one knew better than I did how much he cared about the company's growth. Someone like him would go to make a cake with another girl during work hours. For the first time Ethan felt so utterly unfamiliar to me. I dry my hair with a towel. Ethan's towel hangs on that rack, the two hooks close together. Ethan says couple towels should be kept side by side. I toss the one in my hands into the washing machine. A towel gets dirty, wash it and it's fine. But what about love? Can you want a love that's become dirty? Serena, happy anniversary. Ethan pushes the door open, his voice bright with excitement. I got your favorite cake shop. Sorry I'm late. I sit in the chair and look at the cake he set on the dining table. It's the shop's classic strawberry chocolate cake. The hand-drawn rose above looked so lifelike. The day Ethan formally confessed to me, he was holding a bouquet of roses and asked, "Would you like to be my rose?" I actually breathed a sigh of relief. Thankfully, he had just brought back a ready-made cake. If he had come home with a crooked DIY cake, I was afraid I would have lost my mind. Seeing that I didn't respond for a long time, Ethan came over to my side, crouched down, and reached out to pinch my earlobe. Serena, I know I was wrong. Please forgive me this once, I really couldn't get away. His eyes were bright, filled with earnestness. Like so many times before, he always begged for my forgiveness with that expression of injured compromise, lowering himself. Were all those past times also lies that simply hadn't been exposed? My heart was swollen numb, my nose stung, my throat felt clogged. I tilted my head away and avoided his hand. Ethan's expression froze for a moment. Serena, don't make a scene. You weren't an unreasonable person like this before. His voice went cold, as if trying to use that to intimidate me into backing down. I already had dinner, I can't eat cake. I glanced at the clock on the wall, the hands pointed to 11. It's our 10-year anniversary, but there's less than an hour left. Serena. I want to go back to the company. I cut him off, simply stating what I felt. As I said, the company is Ethan's and mine. It was born from Ethan's sleepless days and nights, and from my pouring out of heart and soul. When the team was just starting and we couldn't find partners, I held the business cards and called them one by one. By the time I had contacted everyone I could, the corners of my mouth were already cracked and dry. But recently, because of preparing for the wedding, I had stepped back from work. Ethan's mother once grabbed my hand and said, "Serena, once you're married you won't have to be so tired anymore. Hurry up and have a child, then you can stay home and play with the kid, and leave the earning to Ethan." I shook my head and refused. I wouldn't imprison myself for the sake of a child, besides, the company was a child to me too. So why should I leave the labor of my heart for some so-called love? I want to go back to the company. This time, I told Ethan calmly. Ethan sprung up, "Why, Serena?" When he met my appraising gaze, he hurriedly added, "We haven't even prepared our wedding yet. I don't want to pause work for the wedding." I was a little tired, rubbing the bridge of my nose. "You know, this is just to let you know. You don't have the right to stop me from going back." Ethan seemed angry, pacing back and forth. "But that's our wedding we've been waiting 10 years for. Didn't you say you had to oversee everything yourself to feel at ease? Serena, do you want to betray our love?" That accusation landed absurdly and without warning. I was even momentarily stunned, almost thinking I was the one who had abandoned the relationship. "Ethan." I stood up and slipped past him into the guest room. "I love the cakes from that shop, we have the same taste." I was actually going to bring one back. How could Ethan not understand what I was saying? He just stayed where he was. By the time he reacted, I'd already locked the door. "Serena, listen to me, that's just..." Ethan fell silent at last. He didn't know how much I'd seen, or whether I already knew everything. I lay on the guest room bed. We picked out this 4-piece set together, Ethan and I, and that day we nearly gave in and got our marriage certificate on the spot, but in the end Ethan said we should have a grand wedding first. Thank goodness. Otherwise a divorce would be far more troublesome than a breakup. The ceiling was empty, the light a little harsh and glaring, and I stared at it for a long time. Every inch of this place held memories we made together. Once they were sweet, now they were unbearable. Because I didn't know that from that moment on, the sweetness had already started to rot and go sour. A rotten apple, I bit through half before realizing the other side was completely decayed. It made me nauseous. I thought I would suffer from insomnia, but I didn't. I'd been on edge since the afternoon, yet once I said it aloud I felt an incredible weight lift. The arrow knocked on the string had already been loosed, shattering every beautiful illusion. I slept well. The sweetest sleep I'd had since we began planning the wedding. When I pushed open the door, Ethan was standing there. He had 2 dark bruises around his eyes, which were bloodshot, and it startled me. "Serena, let's talk. It's not what you think. You can't just give up on me like this. I didn't do anything with her, nothing improper. It's just that I saw her alone, so I wanted to give her a birthday. Not what I think." But the hand resting on her waist was a fact, and the smile on his face wasn't feigned. I was merely recounting what I had witnessed. That girl really went so far as to have some man with no relationship whatsoever accompany her for her birthday? I was so angry I almost laughed. I tilted my head. "If you want to explain anything, I don't want to hear it. If this is about detailed planning for dividing things, I'll put together a list for you to check after I find a place and move out. Ethan, you know I'm not the one who gave up on you." I sighed. "You're the one who gave up on our 10 years. Those words seemed to strike a nerve in Ethan. He suddenly grew furious, his face flushing red. "Yeah, 10 years. How can you just casually say we should split up? From 18 to 28, I've been the one by your side. You're 28 now, Serena, can you afford to waste that?" I froze, and so did he. I felt my heart tighten sharply. So, in his eyes I had already become a commodity not easy to let go. "No, Serena, I didn't mean that." Ethan panicked and reached to grab my arm. I coldly pushed his hand away. "First of all, I'm not saying we should break up. Do you expect me to pretend I don't care and happily forgive you? Do you think forgiving once will be enough? From now on, every time I see you, every time I hear your voice, I'll be reminded of this. I'll have to choose silence and forgiveness again and again. It makes me sick. Ethan, you know my temperament. I don't like to wrong myself. Second, yes, I'm 28. So what, do you think you'll die if you reach 29? At 28 I'm still young, I have plenty of time. But you did make me realize that spending time on men isn't worth it. I'd be better off investing it in my own career. Third. I looked up, catching the panic and helplessness in Ethan's eyes, and still spoke slowly. These 10 years, I won't deny they've been happy, but let this be the end. Ethan, please don't tarnish my memories anymore. Ethan gulped air, suppressing his emotions. I stood there in silence, waiting for him to steady himself. At last Ethan spoke in a low voice, "You don't have to move out. I'll go. It's not safe for a girl to be alone." I nodded, counting that as agreement. Inside I felt very calm, didn't I? Only my eyes burned, and hot tears slid down. "Ethan, from now on, I am no longer your Rose." What surprised me was that I ran into that girl again so soon. The girl named Sunny wore a high ponytail, her pretty face made up delicately, brimming with youthful energy. According to manager Kevin, she was a newcomer who joined during my leave, in a minor position, just a junior assistant. Ethan's assistant. If I didn't exist, this would probably be a cliched yet perfect, the dominant CEO falls in love with me. This is a little too crazy. I was on leave for less than 3 months, and they were already about to stage a show. Apparently 10 years of companionship couldn't compete with the fresh thrill of a mere 3 months. Miss Serena. Sunny didn't leave with manager Kevin and those other newcomers who started at the same time, she went straight to sit down at my desk. I couldn't help frowning, but I waited patiently for her to speak. "Mr. Ethan and I are not that kind of relationship. I had just graduated from university, had no real work experience, and it was Mr. Ethan who took me under his wing, teaching me bit by bit how to do the job well. I'm slow, I always mess things up, but Mr. Ethan patiently corrected my mistakes. To me, he's like an older brother." That day was my birthday. I was working alone in this unfamiliar city, and Mr. Ethan celebrated my birthday with me in the capacity of a brother. "Miss Serena, a woman shouldn't be petty or she'll age quickly. Sunny finished speaking, then, as if by accident, studied my face. Was this an explanation, or a show of force? I laughed. Listening to her describe the little moments with Ethan, my chest did ache with a sour, swollen pain. But more than that, I found it amusing. Wild animals mark territory with their scent. Sunny wanted to prove to me that Ethan already bore her imprint. Her eyes and brows held mockery, as if she were the triumphant victor in some contest, utterly pleased with herself. But from the start, I never intended to compete with her. I wasn't going to fight her for anything. From the moment I saw that scene in the cake shop, I had no intention of wanting Ethan. A cake dropped on the floor isn't still good to eat just because you pick it up within 3 seconds. Then it seems Ethan isn't good at training people, he still hasn't taught you properly. I tapped the desk. I'm your superior, do you have no workplace manners, no sense of boundaries at all? And also, little assistant. I paused, meeting her assessing gaze and giving her a confident smile. You should call me boss. Sunny's expression shifted several times, her eyes darkening and lightening, but she couldn't find any retort. Fortunately, her savior arrived just in time. Slap, Ethan practically rushed into my office. I half expected the glass door to shatter. He was still catching his breath when the first words he looked at me and said were, "Serena, don't put her on the spot, she's young and naive." Ethan, my nominal fiancé, the man who only yesterday was begging me to forgive him. He looked at me with eyes cold as ice, blaming me for making things difficult for his assistant. But he quickly regained his composure, his tone softening considerably. Don't take out what happened between the two of us on an innocent person. She's not yet tainted by this world's cesspool. Can't you show a little understanding? How pathetic, 10 years of knowing and accompanying each other, and he still doesn't know what kind of person I am. He actually thinks I'd harass a rival for his sake. I wasn't going to argue. He had already decided I was the vicious villain, any explanation would be futile. I just said, 22 isn't that young anymore. When I was 22, I was already pulling a project together on my own. Sunny grabbed Ethan's arm, her big eyes filled with grievance. "Mr. Ethan, I'm just slow." Ethan pulled his hand away before she could finish. I suppose he recalled the hardships of starting a business with me, what they call a nostalgia hit. What I really wanted to tell Sunny, though, was simple. At your age I was doing far better than you. Now I'm only a few years older and I've achieved things you can't catch up to. From the very beginning, I was never a rose that needed Ethan's protection, nor an animal unwilling to leave its territory. I was the armed hunter, I owned the whole forest. In the end Ethan led his junior assistant out of my office. The room fell suddenly silent, held up by nothing but that glass door. This farce taught me one thing, I no longer wanted to work with Ethan. Not because I was afraid of memories, nor because exes spark extra jealousy when they meet. I just found it unbearably dull. On the path of love, he was easily blinded, on the road of business, he favored his cronies. Neither a good partner nor an outstanding ally. Rumors in the office spread quickly. By the time I called a few of my longtime subordinates into my office, that storm had already morphed in whispered retellings into a full-blown battleground between the legal wife and the mistress. "Boss, that Sunny has no shame, she actually said you two weren't married, so she can't be considered a real wife." Vivi puckered her small face. "If you ask me, kicking out that scumbag was absolutely the right move. Let's start over together." Vivi is someone I personally mentored, so it was only natural she'd speak up for me. The others were split, some, like Vivi, were willing to leave with me, others still hesitated. I said, "It's true, if you come with me, everything you built at Phoenix Group will be wiped clean. I can contact headhunters and take you with me, but the future would be uncertain. Staying at Phoenix Group will make the road ahead smoother." The short-haired, efficient girl pushed up her glasses. Her name was Yvonne, she was a child who had come down from the mountains. I had thought she wouldn't give up the hard-won progress so easily, but she looked at me with steady eyes. "Boss, I trust you. I'm not afraid to start over, with you, I feel at ease." I smiled. With them by my side, I felt at ease too. I was leaving, and I planned to take several core employees with me. Ethan, who normally wouldn't loosen his grip easily, didn't try to hold on to these staff members. Perhaps, deep down, he really felt indebted to me. It only confirmed my thought once more: Ethan really had lost his wits. Once you have the idea, producing results isn't hard. In less than 3 months, my team and I had already made a modest success at another company. After I sent Ethan the inventory list, I moved to a new residence, everything a brand new start. The farther you go down the wrong path, the deeper the failure. Better to stop immediately, turn around, and cut your losses in time. But I hadn't expected Sunny to come looking for me. It's the weekend. Sunny is standing at my front door, knocking persistently, the knocks sounding in bursts, prompting the neighbors to open their doors and poke their heads out to scold. I hurriedly opened the door and saw her face was unwell. A cloud seemed to gather between her brows, and she looked listless. "Serena, you really are cunning. If you can't have something, you'll keep stirring things up. You just want Ethan to never forget you, don't you?" I didn't let her in. I even quietly pressed the buzzer and called the building management. "I didn't mean that. Ethan isn't someone I need to scheme against. Your relationship is between the two of you, and I, truly, no longer need Ethan." I paused, unsure how much of this Sunny would let through, then added, "May I ask how you found my place? An uninvited visitor on a weekend morning put me on edge." "Ethan filled your desk with messages." Sunny shot at me angrily, her eyes misting. In that moment I seemed to have become the third party in their relationship. "If you're going to leave, leave cleanly. Don't keep coveting my Ethan." Her emotions surged, her eyes went red, and I slammed the door in fright. Luckily the building staff arrived just then and escorted her away. For the first time I felt sorry for Sunny. She'd let herself spiral into emotional chaos over a man. I also thought Ethan detestable. He'd already shattered one woman's heart, then pretended to be tender while hurting another. Between the two women's struggle, he was the unseen mastermind. The property management repeatedly assured me they wouldn't let unrelated people into the compound again, and they certainly wouldn't let anyone come to my door. Only then did I feel a little reassured. Sunny's description of Ethan's desk read like the account of a perverted stalker. I have rarely seen Ethan so unhinged. While I lamented that I had never truly seen him clearly, I secretly felt relieved that I had left when I did. The phone rang. It was Ethan. I thought for a moment, then decided to answer. "Serena, I'm sorry. I don't know how Sunny found you. Can we talk?" When I arrived at the cafe, Ethan was already sitting there. It was clear he had taken care to tidy his appearance. He had shaved, even slicked his hair with gel, yet he couldn't hide the weariness in him. The company suddenly lost several key players at once. That really was no small trouble. Sitting facing Ethan, watching his disheveled state, I didn't know how to describe what I felt in that moment, partly a grim satisfaction, partly a sourness, partly regret. Clearly, in a little while more, we could have moved from school uniforms to wedding dresses and drawn a perfect dash at the end of this campus romance. Only because along the way he was distracted by other scenery, his eyes and mind wandered, and he veered off course. Ever since, we've been strangers. I've thought many times about coming to find you, but I was afraid you wouldn't want to see me. I know I was wrong, but I swear, Sunny and I never did anything to betray you." Ethan's hand on the table tightened and loosened. I know that twitch is his nervous habit. Since when did my lover start looking at other people? When he met Sunny, when he did the things couples do with her, did he ever think of me? Did he ever feel guilty because of me? I no longer care. The pain comes only because 10 years of time, Ethan had become part of my life, and now I am forcibly tearing him away. Of course it hurts. It's hard, but it has to be done. "Serena, I miss you." Ethan's eyes brimmed with tears. "From the day you left I've regretted it." "Have I lost you for good? We've watched so many sunrises and sunsets together. You said you'd stay to watch them with me for a lifetime. I still want to eat the bone broth noodles you make with your own hands. Serena, can't you forgive me just this once? I can't let go, I really can't." By the time Ethan finished he was sobbing uncontrollably. the over 6-foot man collapsed over the table. I turned the coffee cup in my hands and let out a long breath. That night I made bone broth noodles, but you came home so late that the noodles went cold. The noodles went cold, and I sobered up. I poured out what was in the pot, poured out the past 10 years. Ethan jerked his head up, his eyes red, looking exactly like someone who had loved deeply. I'm sorry, Serena. When I saw Sunny I thought of the old you, We haven't been on a date in a long time. She's young and passionate, she made me feel like I was back in the old days. I'm about to vomit, what a disgusting, twisted logic. He was unfaithful and fickle, yet he had the nerve to accuse me of changing, to cast himself as the one who remained faithful to the beginning. This is utterly ridiculous. Live well. I stood up to leave, there wasn't a trace of warmth in my voice this time. Ethan reached out and grabbed my wrist. He was strong, his grip hurt. It hurts, Ethan, let go. I yanked my arm free so hard he didn't expect it and stumbled, crashing into the table. The pain made him release his hold. Serena, really, can't we go back? Ethan asked again. But my answer was to turn away without hesitation. After that I didn't follow Ethan's news for a long time. Although my team had a foundation, we were in a new place and still had a lot to do. By the time we finally found our footing, half a year had already gone by. Fortunately our efforts hadn't been in vain, we actually received an invitation to Chin Corporation's gala. The gala invited many big names in the industry. I didn't expect any opportunities to fall into my lap, but going would at least make us known. Vivi handed me a clutch and puffed out her cheeks. Boss, you're biased. Why did you take Yvonne and not me? I patted Vivi, you're too rambunctious, your teacher can't calm you down. Vivi laughed. She herself didn't like these overly worldly social gatherings, but little girls like to make a fuss, they just have to make some noise. Yvonne stood behind me and pushed up her glasses, you little hooligan. Truly, she was quiet until she wasn't, when she made a sound it startled everyone. Watching Vivi all puffed up with anger made me laugh uncontrollably. Before we got out of the car at the venue, I had to tease Yvonne a little. The light, easy atmosphere froze the moment Ethan and Sunny were seen. Sunny wore a bespoke gown, her lower belly a little rounded, her arm hooked through Ethan's as she curiously scanned the surroundings. In less than a year she had traveled a road I hadn't completed in 10, and yet I felt no envy at all. Ethan kept saying he couldn't let go, but his body was being very honest. Ethan was the first to notice me. When he saw me appear at the party, a flicker of surprise crossed his face, then understanding, no one knew better than he the effort I'd put into my career, it was hardly surprising I had come this far. Then he reflexively tried to shield Sunny, like a mischievous child who'd broken a vase, attempting to cover the scattered shards to deceive himself. There was something else mixed into his gaze, something I didn't want to interpret. Just kidding, it isn't my place to annotate another woman's husband's expressions. Ethan stood rooted, and Sunny quickly followed his line of sight to see me. She grabbed Ethan's hand to steer him away, but after a couple of steps she let go and came straight toward me. Ethan tried to pull her back, but failed. Sunny had never disappointed me. Her delicate voice was a bit sharp and cutting now, it wasn't quiet, drawing others' attention. Serena, why won't you give up? Ethan is my husband now, do you want to be the other woman? One sentence summed up the tangled, inseparable relationship among the three of us. I was certain Ethan deeply regretted not holding on to Sunny. I stayed silent. Yvonne spoke for me, Miss Sunny, this is Chin Group's gala, you'd better not. Who do you think you are, coming here to lecture me? Which big boss did you suck up to get an invite to the gala? Ethan hurried over and grabbed Sunny. Sunny. Shut up. Sunny glared at me, but her expression was smug. I knew she was relishing the moment, she had found the right chance to taunt me, a defeated woman, and to viciously belittle my career. But she really had no sense. Leaving aside how disgraceful her behavior was, merely exposing Ethan's affair was enough to make her a laughingstock. Worst of all, every word she spat was an insult to herself and to Ethan. Admittedly, ability is paramount at work, but you should think twice before choosing to cooperate with someone who isn't faithful in relationships. People are always lenient with themselves but hold high standards for others' character. What's more, her subsequent remarks were even more shocking, suggesting that women attending the gala were just basking in someone else's light. Many of the female elites present changed the way they looked at her and at Ethan. Sunny thought she had insulted me, but she actually flung filth onto herself, and instead ended up giving me a wave of publicity. She didn't show up at the later part of the gala. Instead, quite a few people came to speak with me and praise my achievements. After a night of socializing, I only noticed when I unlocked my phone that Ethan's messages had filled the screen. It was all apologies and the like, even blaming Sunny in his words, saying Sunny couldn't compare to me. Gross, Ethan, why is it that no matter who you're with, you can't be wholehearted? I blocked his new number too. Thank goodness, thanks to Sunny for pulling me back before I fell completely into the abyss, otherwise it would have been like putting flowers on cow dung. Only belatedly did I realize that now, when Ethan's name comes up, I no longer feel the old pain. When the wind is at your back, a little push is enough to take flight. The industry contacts I met at that party brought a lot of new resources to me and my team. We found ourselves at a height we'd never dared imagine before. I think, if there really were such a thing as a lucky star, Sunny would probably be mine, clearing away trouble, paving new paths. Only my lucky star didn't see it that way. Once again, Sunny came and waited under my office building to block me. She looked terrible, as if she'd aged 10 years. From the curses she spat I pieced together the story of their life. Sunny gave birth to a son, but the moment the baby arrived, her once warm and kind mother-in-law turned hostile, becoming a wicked mother-in-law who made life difficult for her at every turn. Ethan's career also stalled, even showing faint signs of backsliding. He blamed Sunny for ruining his image. Ethan missed his ex-girlfriend so much and hated her so deeply that he wanted a divorce, hoping that would give him a chance to reconcile with me. While having security escort her out, I told her, "Sunny, please don't come looking for me anymore, okay? Rest assured, in this world you're the only one who wouldn't despise a man who pretends to be devoted but is rotten through and through. I have more important things to do. Why do you think my head is full of nothing but men and indulgent love? Be a bit more clear-headed. Is your mind really only filled with romance and love? Don't you find that kind of life too narrow?" Sunny stopped calling out, but continued to look at me angrily, her resentful gaze like a dagger ready to pierce me. Some people are truly strange. With infinite possibilities before them, they confine themselves to a single path, binding themselves with so-called love, as if the sole meaning of their lives is to find true love, and to lose love is to lose life. Sunny was like that, and so was Ethan. I once thought Ethan and I were alike, full of ideals and ambitions, dreaming of walking shoulder to shoulder into a successful future. But he chose betrayal for desire, retreated out of guilt, and, consumed by remorse, blamed others. I thought he was a companion walking beside me, but quietly he had taken a completely opposite road. I had just gotten off the plane when I received a call from Ethan's mother, Linda. The big project we'd been talking about for so long had finally been won. I didn't even have time to enjoy it before Linda ruined my good mood with a barrage of moralizing. "Serena, Ethan had an accident, come see him now. They say a day as husband and wife earns 100 days gratitude. You've been together for 10 years, what man hasn't made mistakes? Ethan has already divorced that woman. Now that you're married, I won't pressure you to have children, one child is enough. Can't you be like before?" Of course not. For the first time I realized Linda could be such an absurd, unbearable person. Holding back the urge to insult her, I replied, "Auntie, Ethan and I broke up a long time ago. What he does has nothing to do with me. I don't want to meddle in your family's private affairs either, so you should stop wasting your attention on me." "Serena, that's not how you should talk. Ethan divorced for you. You can't be so irresponsible." Such a heavy accusation landed on me, I was completely speechless. Ethan did nothing I couldn't forgive. You're right, what man hasn't made mistakes? Your uncle was once crazy and failed to cherish you, the day you reconcile with Uncle Joe is the day I'll go with Ethan to get our marriage certificate. Ethan's father had also been an alcoholic who cheated and beat his wife. Linda, contrary to how magnanimous she claimed to be, didn't truly forgive him. Before she could even file for divorce, Ethan's father died in a drunk driving accident. Forgive Ethan, cater to Ethan? Get lost. Before Linda's string of curses could get through, I beat her to it and hung up, put Linda on the blacklist, and then checked again carefully to make sure there weren't any loose ends who could come whispering in my ear to whitewash Ethan. Only then did I breathe out. Boss. Yvonne handed me a coat. Through her lenses I could see her smiling eyes. You're becoming more and more like Vivi. I was taken aback. I had always been steady and serious, perhaps even too constrained, while Vivi was lively and free-spirited. But indeed, since leaving Ethan, I seemed to be letting myself go more and more, saying what I wanted to say, doing what I wanted to do. Vivi heard her name and popped her head up from behind. What? I heard someone calling me? Is the boss treating this meritorious servant to a big meal? I want to eat the full feast at Manching Tower. I looked at them and smiled. All right, eat. Eat your fill, my great heroes. I threw an arm over a girl's shoulder and strode forward. I remembered what Ethan had said before. He said, Serena, you've changed. Back when I was beside Ethan, in the hard early days of starting up, I was always tense. That tautness gradually became a habit, and I forgot that the original me had once been proud and unrestrained like these young kids. I've changed, for a better life, but he blames me for not giving him the passion and thrill I did at the beginning. But if he had been a proper partner, providing me emotional support, letting me relax like Vivi and Yvonne do, would I still be on edge all the time? In the end, Ethan is just useless. He demands everything yet can't even keep the most basic moral boundaries. I was really, truly blind before. Hey, boss, now that you've left that jerk and are single again, want me to set you up with some handsome guys? Vivi's top picks. No, let me be the only beauty. I gently tapped the girl's head. Men, only slow me down from reaching the summit. I have never been a rose confined to a flower pot. I am a wildflower meant to bloom across the whole mountainside. Above my head the sky was an endless blue, clouds drifting lazily, and as far as the eye could see winter's snow had blanketed the surroundings in a thick white coverlet. And spring lay dormant within the cold, waiting for the next season of blossoms. I am not anyone's rose, I am an entire spring.